Some songs don't just climb the charts. They become part of people's lives. Today's guest is the voice behind some of the most recognizable and emotionally resonant songs of the 2000s. From Superman, It's Not Easy, to 100 Years, music that has comforted, challenged, and stayed with listeners long after the final note fades. But behind the music is a story that goes deeper than what we hear on the radio. Joining me today is John, the artist behind Five for Fighting, alongside his lovely wife, Carla, a former vice president at EMI Music Publishing, who has helped shape the careers of some of the biggest names in music, and whose journey from industry executive to author and coach brings a powerful perspective on what it really takes to succeed. This is a conversation about storytelling, life behind the spotlight, and the moments that shape the songs we never forget. This is Plot Twist Radio. And Carla, welcome to Plot Twist Radio.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Hello.
It's great having you. And though introductions are not necessary, if you could just introduce yourself for the audience.
Okay, well, I'm Carla Ondrasik, John's wife. And my background, I was in music publishing for 25 years. And I kind of sort of discovered this guy here and then married him. And we've been married for 28 years. We have 2 kids. And I am recently an author of a book that's come out called Stop Trying. So yeah, we're kind of enjoying life these days together.
Wonderful.
I am the aforementioned John Ondrasik. Blessed to be a singer-songwriter. I perform under the band name Five for Fighting, and we'll get into it, but it's been quite the partnership for the last 3 decades with Carla, and we live in California, and I'm a big fan of the LA Kings. So there you go.
My son would be just ecstatic. We both like LA teams. He likes the Kings, I like the Dodgers, but we're in Chicago. What is that about? I don't know. So, Carla, you discovered John. That is quite the plot twist to begin with. What was it about him that, drew you in and realized this is it?
Yeah, I love that. I love the title of your podcast, Plot Twist, because I was working for a company and mainly the music was R&B. So I had, like Too Short, who's still touring, the rapper, following me around the office. And I was working with a lot of R&B artists. So the plot twist is huge. I was at Motown pitching songs for R&B artists. And through the wall of my meeting, I heard a voice. And it was this voice. And I thought, that's not R&B, that's not rap, that's the most incredible voice. It went from the wall to my heart. And I asked the guy I was having a meeting with, who is that? And it was the secretary's boyfriend. She was playing the cassettes all day long. And I'm like, well, where can I buy that? And he said he doesn't even have a record deal. So I then went to a showcase that John was putting on, on Melrose Avenue at a coffee bar. He was performing. And I thought, okay, I can get this artist a deal and get him on the radio where he belongs. So going from Motown pitching R&B songs to coming out those doors with this cassette was quite the plot twist. It was crazy. And then, of course, I started working with him and then did sign him to a publishing deal and then got him the record deal and then married him. Boom.
My version of the story, as Carla said, I was playing in a piano bar in Melrose. There was about 4 people there, 2 of which I paid to be there, the other 2 serving coffee. And I would play every Wednesday night, at this little piano bar. And I noticed this woman walk in and sit at the back of the room. And after my set, she came up and, she had this kind of black leather jacket on, smoking a cigarette. And she's like, hello, my name is Carla Berkowitz. I get people record deals. And I'm like, well, I'd heard that before, to be honest with you. But she was quite attractive. And I said, well, we need to work together. And of course, for the first 2 years to Carla, I was basically a potential income stream, nothing more. There was no romantic inclinations from her side, but I always had a certain crush on her. And then kind of one night at a music industry fundraiser, Carla, as I like to put it, saw the light. And that began our relationship. And as she said, we've been kind of riding the roller coaster of the music business for the last 3 decades. And it's been really fun because, she understands the obligations of a singer-songwriter and promotion. And I think that's been very helpful. And also, she's one of the best kind of song pluggers in the business. So that's good and bad because she kind of knows a lot of things, but she has no problem telling me my songs suck, when they do. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and to still be, at 60 years old, touring and performing and having people sing my songs back to me is really a childhood dream come true.
Oh, I can imagine. And you're both writers, but 2 different kinds of writing. John, we'll start with you. What is your writing process like?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. I think a lot of it is just doing it, just the work ethic of sitting down and putting the time in. Since I was 15 years old, I probably, wrote 200 or 300 songs a year, and I would always be in my studio recording, writing. So a lot of it is just doing it. As a songwriter, there's really no rules beyond, sometimes you start with a melody, sometimes you start with a lyric. A lot of times you just have to be listening to the world around you, and you can hear ideas, you can hear songs, you can see circumstances that may inspire you to write a song. So sometimes it just starts with a concept or something you see, your observations. But again, a lot of it is kind of drudgery. It's like going back to the drawing board and listening to work tapes and recording 30 hours of ideas and listening to it to try to find that one hook that's special. Again, I've written thousands of songs in my career, and for the most part, people know 2 of them. But again, I think so much of it is also will. I think a lot of it has to do with things way beyond talent. I think talent is maybe 10% of my success. Will to keep going. In the arts, there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of disappointment. So just having the will to trust in yourself and keep going, building relationships with people. I wouldn't be talking to you if I didn't have a certain relationship with the radio programmer who stuck with me when nobody else did. So those things, I think, for any endeavor, any career, are really critical. And for me, luckily, in great reason because of Carla and a few other people, the stars aligned.
Yes, absolutely. They sure did. Carla, you're an author. Congratulations on the book. I'm also a writer. I'm not a great one, but I am one. But what is your writing process like?
It's so interesting. I never thought I would be an author. Like, it wasn't on my major goal list. And for me, I was just obsessed with the word try, like for the last 25 plus years, right? And I would take notes. I would write little things. I had thousands of papers and notebooks, and I would do study groups with women on, why are you succeeding? Why are you failing? And I love success stories, memoirs, the rags to riches. And so I think just when the moment aligned for me to be able to put this message out into the world at this stage in my life, I was very lucky. I had people around me that were able to introduce me to an editor and an agent. And so I got the agent and then started writing the book. And I had a deadline from day one. So that really helped me. My process of writing was, okay, you have an opportunity to put this book out. We need it delivered by November. And I just called all my friends and I said, please don't invite me to dinners and lunches and events because I'm just putting my head down and getting to work. And I would work from, I think it would start for me like 8 o'clock at night and I'd work till 4 a.m, till I could barely keep my eyes open. And I had so much fun doing it. So it was researching, writing, having a nice ability to focus and have my project for that week of what I had to accomplish, and having the deadline was the best. So I just really took 25 years of notes and my ideas and my thoughts and my passion and finally said, okay, now I'm going to do it. And I put it all together in a book and turned it in on time.
That's awesome. I work better when I'm on a deadline too. If I know a book is, it's scheduled to be released, say June 20th, I am one of those that will run up right up to the clock. I don't know why. That's just how I don't know. I guess that's procrastinator in me, but I find that, I can shut myself away more so and push, and it's a better product. So I like that you had the deadline, so you were focused, because that's kind of how I am too.
Yeah, I'm excited to read your books.
Oh, thank you. They're a wild ride. Let's just put it that way. So let's get back to the music now. What's one misconception people have about making it in music? Either one of you or both can answer this one.
Wow. I'll start. A misconception about making it is, number one, that it's talent. Oh, I'm so talented that I'm going to be a big star. It's so much more. As far as back to the first question we just talked about, was the writing of the book was the easy part. That was the easiest part, but it's promoting it and marketing it and getting it out there. So a lot of kids these days, or, striving musicians, talent is not enough. That's the biggest misconception. So you have to now utilize Instagram and all of the platforms that you can use and start performing and do the little things that seem demeaning that you don't want to do. You never know who's going to be in that room at that moment that's watching you. It could be the gig you don't want to go to. That's the one that changes your life. So hard work and self-promotion and marketing. And if you can't do it for yourself, find somebody that believes in you that can do that for you. It could be your best friend. It doesn't have to be a professional. But for me, I would say that's the biggest misconception.
Yeah, for me, I think, in the culture, there's a certain obsession with celebrity. And boy, if you can just be a rock star or a celebrity or have 10 million followers, your life is going to be, roses and champagne. And so much of what we do is not, romantic and exciting. It's airports, it's hotels, it's 10-hour bus rides. It's kind of a grueling schedule to have that magical 2 hours on stage. And, sometimes success can bring its own challenges, right? When you have success, there's a lot of pitfalls, and to continue to have humility and gratitude for what you do, that can be challenging when everybody's telling you that you're the greatest thing that's ever existed. So I think the misconception of celebrity, and that's why you see so many kind of celebrity struggle. Fortunately for me, I had a great parents, and I had a great family, and Carla was kind of right there at the beginning of my success. So I had a lot of people around me that would kind of keep me grounded and.
Oh, I still make them take the garbage out.
Oh yeah.
We keep,
I like that.
Sure. Very grounded.
Yeah.
I'm there.
I'm just her Uber driver. But yeah, so I think, kind of having people around you that, kind of remind you of what matters, and so you can walk that kind of celebrity, road a little easier. I think that's one thing that I think there's a misconception out there in the culture. And again, for me, I've been very fortunate to have a great support staff around me my whole life.
Absolutely. Both excellent answers. So let's talk about 100 years, because ever since I found out I was going to be interviewing you guys, that song has been in my head. I've been singing it on repeat. It's almost philosophical. Did that perspective come from like a personal experience or just more of observation?
Well, I was sitting on the couch one day, and this was, after Superman had come out and I'd had my first hit. And, I tend to be one of those people that always kind of lament the past. Oh, I should have done this. I should have done that. Or I'm future tripping. What am I going to do? How am I going to? And I'm not very good at living in the moment. And of course, we've all heard that cliche. And I was sitting there, and I had, a 2-year-old on one knee, a 3-year-old on the other, a great family, lived in the greatest nation that ever exists in history. And I had a thought of, can you at least for 1 second just sit back and appreciate what you have right now? Because you're not very good at it. And I thought, well, maybe that could be a song. But I'm like, of course, that song's been written. But I had this thought of, well, a wish is never better than this when you always only got 100 years to live. So basically the song was a life and the verses were stages of our lives, kind of moving through our lives. And not the moment's not always good, right? Sometimes we have really tough, challenging moments in our life, but that's part of it. So that was kind of the impetus of that song. We talked about where do songs come from? It didn't come from a melody. It didn't come from a lyric. It came with a thought and a concept. And then I sat down at the piano and I started messing around with it. And 3 or 4 months later, we had the song. So it's interesting how songs come that way. And for me, it's probably my favorite song to play because I'm always kind of new in it. I wrote the song when I was in the top of the second verse in my 30s. Now I'm in the bridge, and I'm wise, hopefully. And then one day I'll be in the vamp. So it's kind of like the nice thing about that song is you're always in there somewhere and you're moving through it. And the song may mean something totally different to you in your 40s and 50s than it did to you when you were in your 20s. I hear that all the time. So it's kind of a song that transcends time. And I think that's one reason why it still kind of resonates in the culture.
Yes, absolutely. And you bring up a really good point because I know a lot of parents out there, myself included, there's times where you're kind of just like, oh, can we get out of the stage, like speed it up. But then you hear like a song like that. I think of like when my son was really little and he was on top of everything and I was afraid he was going to burn the house down. And I was just like, oh, I can't do it anymore. But songs like that, you kind of like put the life into perspective a lot more. So I think you're right. That's why it's such a powerful song and it still holds today. And it is much different looking back now that I'm 40 versus when I was younger and the song came out. Because like you said, you see it from two different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our daughter was a tantrum child, just a 2-year-old devil kid. And, and we look back on it so fondly now. It's like, oh, we miss those days. We're empty nesters, if somebody have a grandchild, and of course, back in the day, you're pulling your hair out, screaming, how am I going to get through this? So.
Talking about.
Yeah.
He was gone. He was gone. He was on tour.
Not always.
Oh, come on. This is the early 2000s. He'd call and I'd be like.
I had some serious tantrum experiences.
You did.
That still traumatized me to this day.
They do stick with you for a while. They absolutely do.
Carla, so we know how it was for him. How was it for you behind the scenes during these songs, especially, Superman and 100 Years?
Yeah. Superman was so exciting because that was just the very beginning. And it was a song that he didn't even think he would perform. So, I remember being in the living room with the producer, listening, going over things of what they're going to choose to do. And the producer saying, let's do this one, and it was just such a brand new time. And I love that. And then, of course, 100 Years, the side story is he had to follow up Superman with another hit. You don't want to be the one-hit wonder. And so the record label was all over him and they were listening to things and there was a lot of pressure and like that deadline pressure. And he was very afraid to play me songs because if I didn't like it, he wouldn't speak to me for a week.
True. 3 days.
And so, or he would not write it anymore. So he really delayed playing me anything. And so I remember he was in his little closet studio and he said, I want you to hear a song. And I stood in the doorway and he turned his back to me and he played the 100 Years and tears it hit me. It was so I knew like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And he turned around and he looked at me and he thought,
well, either I wrote a hit or my career was over. Because she was crying. I don't know if they were happy tears or sad tears, but yeah.
So that was really fun, as a publisher, knowing like what it was going to take for him to really go to the next stage and keep his career going. So there was that, and then of course, I had a career for 25 years. I worked so hard, and then he took the reins. And plot twist, I stopped working, and now he was the one working, but I got to become a mom and be at home with my kids. We had them very close together. So my days were filled with just playing and fun and him, doing what he had dreamed of doing. So it was really a special, amazing time for us. And the moments when he'd pull up after being gone for a couple of months and holding up the sign in the front yard and then kids waiting for him were so great. And it was very, very special, very amazing. So I was really happy through all of it. Felt so lucky that I could stay home with my kids.
Oh, absolutely. It is a treasure, and going back to the little kid stage, sometimes we don't take it for what it is at the time, but it sounds like you absolutely did. And that's wonderful. It's very rewarding, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah. And luckily, like, the kids grew and his career grew and like everything just kind of, naturally went up. And I wish if I could go back in time, it would be to those times.
So, Carla, we'll stay with you. How has your definition of success changed from your days at EMI till now?
Oh my gosh. So, when you're younger and you're in your career, success is number one, keeping your job. That is the first success that you want, is just to get your contract renewed, for the next couple of years, keep that salary coming. I always wanted to stand out at whatever company I was at. So, I was very lucky and I worked really hard, and I was vice president of creative writer development for EMI. So I did that. So the success in that arena was the keeping your job, getting promoted, getting songs on the radio. They were very, tangible things. And writing the book, success for me is intangible. I don't need and I don't desire the financial reward or the publicity, being a public person and being a celebrity. I don't desire that. For me, it was the intangible rewards and success of, I did something I said I was going to do. I did it really well. I'm helping people. I'm actually changing lives with this book. And that's my definition of success. And if nothing else happened, if the book didn't even sell one copy, I would still say I was successful because I followed my heart. I put the work in. I did what I wanted to do, and I released something that was meaningful to the world. So 100%, my definition of success is very different. And and to feel proud of myself is my definition of success for sure. Yeah.
Because we can be our own worst critics. So putting that out there and being so proud of it, you can't replace that feeling. You just can't.
No, and also getting back to the kids, which seem to be, prevailing through this conversation, having my kids watch me say I want to do something and then doing it, and all the struggles I had doing it, I mean, for them to watch their mom do something is amazing. So there's success there too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John, looking back on your career, what could you tell pre-Superman John? Or what would you tell pre-Superman John, I should say?
Chill out. Yeah, I mean, of course, you always learn lessons. Look, when I wrote Superman, it's not easy to be me. I was hitting the wall of the music business. I was struggling. I was disappointed. I was frustrated. But I've learned in the last 30 years, it's pretty easy to be me. It's pretty easy to be most of us. And that really is not because I've had success, but I've met people with real challenges, right? So I would tell them, just do your best. You can't control everything in the world, but think about the big things. Think about being a good son, being a good husband, being a good father. Do things that inspire you. And, talking about success, a good mentor of both of ours, Augie Nieto, wrote a book called Success to Significance. And so I'd like to think, in the last 10, 15 years, I've focused more on kind of passionate charitable adventures for me and the days of, hits and record sales and selling tickets and all that stuff that used to kind of dominate my thoughts have morphed into something maybe a little broader. And so, I would say, just do your best, and you can't control everything. And and be grateful for what you do have. That's one thing I've really learned about, we tend to be very competitive and tend to be kind of, especially in our line of business, pretty narcissistic. You kind of have to be to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, be grateful for what you do have, because I think we obsess so much on what's wrong with the world and all of, bad things and things that make us, frustrated. But look at all the good things. And I still struggle with that, to be honest with you. I still kind of obsess on things I want to change and things that make me angry. But, to be grateful for what you do have. And I think COVID taught that to a lot of us, that lesson of look, simple things, going out to dinner with your parents, or, driving your kid to school, the mundane things in life are really the big things, and to appreciate those. So that's what I would tell them. I don't know if you'd listen to me, but that's what I tell them.
Our younger selves never listen.
That's
I'm
right.
proof of that. Trust me. So, Carla, where can the audience find you, your book, and your coaching?
So yeah, the book is available everywhere that books are sold. Amazon, you can buy it on Amazon. And my website is stop-trying.com. And there's a ton of information on there. There's some free downloads and stuff if you sign up. And Instagram, that's my favorite platform. I do these really great posts a few times a week that just really bring home the message of, wait, what do you mean stop trying? I thought trying is a good thing. I thought I'm supposed to try. Well, you're going to have a big plot twist in your life, because trying is not what you think it is. And so follow me on Instagram, go to the website, buy this book for yourself, for people that you love, because it is life-changing. Thank you for asking.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure all those links are in the show notes. John, what's up next for you?
Yeah, well, our summer tour is just around the corner. We're going out with a great artist named Edwin McCain, who had some hit songs kind of the same time I did. So it'll be a little kind of trip to the past and blast to the future. So we'll be out all June in the Midwest, in the South, me and Edwin. And then this fall, we always do a string quartet tour, me and a string quartet. So we'll be in the Northeast, Fight for Fighting with string quartet, all over the Northeast in September and October, even up into Canada. And the great thing about this little run is my daughter Olivia is opening for us with her folk duo Lace and Lee. So we travel together, which is for a daddy, very, very wonderful. And so, yeah, so a lot of music, a lot of fun, and all the dates are at fiveforfighting.com. And, we always leave a few tickets for our soldiers and our military families. So folks can always reach out to me if they want to be our guest. But yeah, so it'll be another year of frolicking with the kids in the bus and having a lot of fun.
Well, very, very cool. And I hope you guys have a wonderful tour. I loved having you. And thank you so much for joining me. I know that the audience is going to love you.
Thanks for having us.
Always good for a plot twist.
Conversation like this reminds us that success isn't just about talent. It's about belief, timing, risk, and the people who see something in you before the world does. My thanks to John and Carla for sharing not just their journey, but the perspective behind it. Until next time, this is Plot Twist Radio.